$740 billion for Department of Defense programs, $27.8 billion for national security programs within the Department of Energy, and $378 million for defense-related activities. That's what's in the 2022 National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, or as I like to call it, our healthcare and housing money that's been given to the Pentagon. The professional politicians call this bill a compromise because Democrats dropped a provision to require women to register for the draft so that Republicans could vote for the military justice provisions that would remove the commander from decisions to prosecute crimes such as rape, sexual assault, murder, manslaughter, and kidnapping, among other measures, to add sexual harassment to the Uniform Code of Military Justice and require the Department of Defense to submit a report on adding violent extremism to the Uniform Code of Military Justice. See what they did there? They could just go right ahead and add sexual harassment as a criminal offense under the UCMJ, but violent extremism committed mostly by white supremacist types, well, just do a report on making that a crime under military law. Compromise continues to be deadly, especially since this entire bill that authorizes these appropriations for the Department of Defense and quote unquote related programs is an example of the greatest hypocrisy and the most amoral ongoing theft of domestic resources, probably since, I'm going to say it, slavery. I'm not being hyperbolic here. Fiscal year 2021 marked the 60th consecutive year for which an annual defense authorization was passed and implemented without any resistance. In 1960, the NDAA was approved for $47 billion. By 2019, the NDAA was approved for $731 billion. This year, Congress has approved $770 billion in military spending, $25 billion more than what was requested by Joe Biden and about 5% more than last year's budget. They just threw an extra $25 billion in there for giggles, I guess. And I'm perusing the news about this, and it's funny how I don't see Joe Manchin or Kyrsten Sinema staging their "how are they going to pay for it" theatrics over this bill. I don't even see anyone raising any issues about the increase in spending outside of the 70 legislators who voted against it. In fact, did you know that House and Senate rules require that a report on a measure that provides new budget authority must contain a statement from the Congressional Budget Office projecting the cost of the bill for the first fiscal year affected and the 4 subsequent fiscal years? But have you ever actually seen that happen with the NDAA? I've never seen a CBO report on any new spending for the NDAA. I've never even seen anyone demand a report on any new spending for the Pentagon. But every time money is proposed to fund social programs like healthcare, housing, food stamps, education, everybody and their cheap uncle wants a CBO report to prove that it costs too much. And they insist that they'll have to cut other programs to barely fund those things that ensure basic human rights and dignity. But these people lie about how much more expensive it would be to take care of people in this country. And this is where the massive amoral theft comes in. According to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, it would only cost $20 billion to end homelessness in the United States. $20 billion. And then, according to the Peter G. Peterson Foundation, which claims to be a nonpartisan organization dedicated to addressing America's long-term fiscal challenges to ensure a better economic future, well, they estimate that if the government would pay for college tuition before any grant aid is applied for everyone, it would cost only $50 billion in the first year and only $683 billion over 11 years. That's less than 1 year's defense budget. Joel Berg, CEO of Hunger Free America, has calculated the cost of ending hunger in the U.S. at just $25 billion. Some people estimate that it would only cost $45 billion to end world hunger. And people balked at the $32 trillion over 10 years price tag of Medicare for all. But the federal government already estimates that national health care spending will total about $48 trillion over the next 10 years under the current for-profit system as costs keep going up. And by 2027, at least according to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, this country will be spending about $6 trillion every year on health care. Total spending over the subsequent 10 years will reach $60 trillion at least. And that's if we do absolutely nothing. So we're already outspending what it would cost to provide Medicare for all. And that's a fraction of what is spent on the military and the defense budget. But none of this is ever brought to light when the questions about how we're going to pay for social programs, human rights programs, really are raised. And the same people who demand that social programs be paid for never demand to know how defense spending that goes up every year will be paid for. And that's because they know full well that they're robbing you and me of our health care and housing and education money to fund their endless, deadly wars and to line their pockets with the blood money. Follow Luqman Nation on patreon.com/LuqmanNation for lots of great content.